A colony founded with hope, a word carved into wood, and a mystery that has haunted history for more than 4 centuries. In 1587, over 100 Englishmen, women, and children vanished from the shores of North Carolina. They left behind no bodies, no graves, no signs of struggle, only the word Croatoan. This is not just the story of a disappearance. It's a story of ambition, survival, myth-making, and how one mystery became larger than life. Welcome to the haunting tale of the lost colony of Roanoke. The 1580s were an age of fierce rivalry. Spain dominated the Americas, flooding its empire with gold and silver. England, under Queen Elizabeth I, longed to compete. Sir Walter Raleigh received a royal charter to establish colonies in the New World, bases for trade, privateering, and power. The first expeditions to Roanoke were military outposts, but they failed. Supplies ran low, relations with indigenous people soured, and the harsh conditions proved too much. But in 1587, Raleigh tried something different: families. About 115 colonists set out, not soldiers, but settlers. Among them were Eleanor Dare, daughter of Governor John White. Soon after arriving, Eleanor gave birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. For a brief moment, hope was alive. But Roanoke was no paradise. The land was difficult, resources scarce, and tensions with local tribes grew quickly. Within weeks, the settlers realized they could not survive without aid from England. So, Governor John White sailed back across the Atlantic to gather supplies. It was a painful choice, leaving behind his daughter, his newborn granddaughter, and over 100 colonists. He expected to return quickly, but fate had other plans. England was consumed by the threat of the Spanish Armada. Every ship was needed for war. White's return was delayed, not for months, but for 3 long years. In 1590, John White finally returned, but when he reached Roanoke, the settlement was silent. The fort dismantled, houses gone, the land eerily still. No bodies, no graves, no signs of violence. Only one clue: the word Croatoan, carved into a wooden post. On another tree, the letters C-R-O. White believed this meant the colonists had relocated to Croatoan Island, modern Hatteras. But before he could investigate, storms forced him back to sea. He would never see his family again. The colonists were never found. So, what became of the lost colony? Over the centuries, theories have flourished. It is speculated that the missing colonists could have assimilated into a Native American tribe. This has been suggested since at least 1605. If this integration was successful, the colonists would gradually exhaust their European supplies, ammunition, clothing, etc., and discard European culture, language, styles of dress, agriculture. Some historians believe the colonists may have attempted to rescue themselves by sailing back to England in their pinnace. While little is known about the vessel, ships of this size were capable of making the transatlantic journey, though such a voyage were typically made in company with larger ships. Fearing Spanish attack on traditional routes through the Caribbean, the colonists may have attempted to direct its course to England, or perhaps sail north to seek English fishing fleets in the Gulf of Maine. The pinnace was too small to carry everyone, especially with supplies on board, but it is possible the colonists constructed another vessel from local lumber and spare parts. Survivors of later shipwrecks, like the Sea Venture in 1609, proved such feats were possible. Even so, not all of the colonists would have left Virginia, leaving their ultimate fate uncertain. Anthropologist Lee Miller suggested that the Roanoke colonists were victims of a political conspiracy. She argued that Sir Francis Walsingham, Simon Fernandez, and others deliberately stringed the settlers to undermine Walter Raleigh. Those ventures conflicted with Walsingham's strategies against Catholic powers like Spain. This, Miller claimed, delayed any relief missions until Walsingham's death in 1590. She further proposed that the colonists, possibly religious separates, seeking refuge, split up, some going to Croatoan, others joining the Chowanoke. But European diseases may have devastated the Chowanoke, weakening them against attacks by the man-dog, whom Miller identified as the Eno. The Eno, she reasoned, enslaved the surviving colonists and dispersed them across the region. Her theory, however, is debated, since Walsingham financially supported Raleigh's ventures, and Fernandez even ensured John White returned to England rather than leaving him behind. Local legends in Dare County tell of an abandoned settlement called Beachland, in which is now called the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge, where small coffins with Christian markings have been reported. Based on these accounts, engineer Philip McMullen and amateur archaeologist Fred Willard argued that Raleigh secretly sent the Roanoke colonists to harvest sassafras, a highly valuable crop at the time. They claimed that the records describing Chesapeake Bay as the colonists' intended destination were falsified to hide their operation from Spain and rivals. According to McMullen, Raleigh maintained contact with the colonists until his death in 1618, after which they gradually assimilated with the Croatoan people at Beachland. However, this theory relies heavily on oral transactions and a 1651 map showing a sassafras tree and speculation about Raleigh's financial motives. Critics point out that the 1585 exploitation costs had already been offset by Richard Grenville privateering, and sassafras prices didn't peak until the late 1590s, well after the colony was established. Playwright Paul Green, while researching for a 1937 stage production, noted that Spanish records from late 1500s made frequent references to Raleigh's colonies. Spain had learned of England's plans for a Virginia base by 1587 and was actively searching for it even before white colonists arrived. Since Spain claimed much of North America as part of Florida, it rejected England's right to colonize Roanoke or Chesapeake Bay. The settlers would have understood the danger given Spain's violent history, such as the 1565 sack of Fort Caroline. The threat of a Spanish attack was real. However, records show that Spanish forces were still searching for the colony in Chesapeake Bay as late as 1600s. This strongly suggests that despite their interest, the Spain never actually discovered the fate of the lost colonists either. In 2006, Scott Dawson suggests that a southern live oak on Hatteras Island, bearing the faint inscription Cora, could be linked to the lost colony. Local legends already associated the tree with a witch named Cora. Popularized by Charles H. Whitby in 1989, Dawson proposed that, like the Croatoan carving on Roanoke, Cora might indicate that the colonists moved to live with the Coree people near Lake Mattamusket. A 2009 attempt to date the tree was inconclusive, as lightning and deep decay prevented a valid core sample, and even if the tree were from the 16th century, the inscription's age would remain uncertain. Between 1937 and 1941, a series of inscribed stones, allegedly written by Eleanor Dare, mother of Virginia Dare, were discovered, claiming to detail colonists' travels and deaths. Most historians now consider them fraudulent, and investigators linked all but one to stonecutter Bill Abinhart. The first stone, however, stands out. Linguistics and chemical analysis suggest it could possibly be genuine. Accounts from Captain John Smith suggest that the Powhatan chief Powhatan claimed to have killed the colonists, possibly out of fear or prophecy. For many native peoples, the colonists never vanished. They adapted. Stories from the Lumbee and Hatteras tribes suggest the English joined their communities. European artifacts, rings, weapons, and writing slates have been found at indigenous sites, supporting the idea of integration. This paints a very different picture, not a tragic annihilation, but survival. The colonists may not have been lost at all, but reborn in a new world. In recent years, archaeology has added fresh evidence. On Site X on Albemarle Sound, pottery shards believed to belong to the colonists were uncovered far inland from Roanoke. Meanwhile, on Hatteras Island, tools and personal items of clear English origin were discovered. These finds suggest the colony may have split, some traveling inland, others to Croatoan Island. Instead of one dramatic ending, there may have been many smaller stories. Over time, Roanoke slipped from history into legend. The most famous tale is that of Virginia Dare. Folklore says she grew up among the Croatoan, but was cursed by a jealous witch and transformed into a white doe. Hunters pursue her, and to this day, her ghostly form is said to wander the forest of North Carolina. Then, there's the word Croatoan. It appears not just in Roanoke, but across other strange tales. Edgar Allan Poe supposedly muttered it before his death. It was found carved into Amelia Earhart's journal in one story, and even linked in the disappearance of Roanoke Island's later history. Whether it's coincidence or a curse, the word gained a chilling reputation. And of course, with mystery comes speculation. Some French theories suggest that the colonists were taken by beings from the sky, a notion fueled by complete lack of remains. Others argue the colony was never meant to survive, but was part of a cover-up or failed intelligence mission against Spain. Some beliefs link the colonists' disappearance to dark magic, witches, and supernatural beings, which local indigenous tales mention an evil reptilian creature or a witch who transformed Virginia Dare into a deer. The idea that the colonists turned to cannibalism for survival, possibly fueled by a Wendigo monster, is a theory, though it's often framed as a response to famine rather than an active conspiracy. While far-fetched, these theories reveal how the mystery grips the imagination. The Lost Colony has echoed through centuries of art and storytelling. Paul Green's outdoor drama The Lost Colony has been performed in North Carolina every summer since 1937. More recently, American Horror Story Roanoke turned the tale into supernatural horror. Virginia Dare herself became a cultural symbol, used in poetry, politics, and even marketing. To some, she represents innocence and endurance. To others, she symbolizes the blending and often the erasure of cultures in early America. Today, more than 400 years later, the mystery of Roanoke is still alive, not just in folklore, but in laboratories. In recent years, researchers have begun using DNA testing to trace whether the descendants of the colonists might still walk among us. One focus has been the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, whose oral histories claim descent from the Lost Colony. Some Lumbee families speak of ancestors with English features, gray eyes, or surnames resembling those of the settlers. Geneticists have tried to compare DNA samples from Lumbee families with databases of known English lineages. While no conclusive Eleanor Dare descendants has yet been identified, the research suggests patterns of European ancestry within indigenous groups of the region, consist with the assimilation theory. Archaeologists also partner with these communities, combining oral history, artifacts, and genetics at dig sites of Hatteras Island and Albemarle Sound. Items linked to Europeans continue to surface: a gun log, slate-written tablets, and glass beads. Each discovery raises the possibility that the colonists didn't vanish, but blended into the fabric of native society. This scientific work is ongoing, and though the mystery may never fully be solved, modern DNA studies bring us closer than ever to understanding what really happened. It is no longer just a question of the past, but a living search for descendants, identity, and truth. The Lost Colony of Roanoke is more than just a mystery. It's a story of dream survival and how myth can outlast memory. Perhaps the colonists did not vanish at all. Perhaps they lived on, hidden in new communities, English blood mingling with native heritage. Or perhaps they perished, their fate swallowed by time and the wild shores of the New World. What do you believe happened to the colonists of Roanoke? Were they victims of a tragedy, survivors who adapted, or something stranger still? Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, remember, sometimes history's loudest echoes come from its silences.